In here, we got a bunch of questions for us. We're pretty excited, so we're just gonna get going here. Is that cool?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, perfect. So, welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Vet, the Bet, the Casual. For our second interview ever, we got the lovely Gillian Robertson. Lucky us, and we're really excited with a bunch of questions to get going. So, I'm gonna kick it over to Pies to kind of get the ball rolling here.
All right. So, first thing I gotta ask you, man, do you make your own memes? Because they are so fire.
Yeah, I have a couple friends who help me put them together, but usually it's a collaborative work between us.
Yeah, they're inspiring. They're literally inspiring for us. They're so good.
Dabbling in that world. So yeah, they are hilarious. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you.
So I know you've actually been at ATT for quite some time, and then you kind of went off with Dean. So you're actually Canadian and born in Niagara Falls. So, do you have a lot of ties to Canada? Like, you kind of moved out there when you were a teenager, right?
I was actually younger than a teenager. I moved out to Florida when I was about probably 7 years old. And it was my mom got a job offer down in Florida, and I still have both my sets of my grandparents and most of my family up in Canada. So I've always been back and visited almost every single summer and some winters. Try to stay away from there in the winter, stay down at that time. But yeah, Canada's always felt like home to me.
That's amazing. So are you close to any other Canadian fighters? Because there's been a bunch that have been coming out during 2020, and you're kind of like the heap of that.
No, I actually don't know. I don't think I know anybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would love to meet, some of the greats like George St. Pierre. That'd be a dream to work with him one day.
Oh,
he's making a comeback now too.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen that you've worked with some greats as well. So, a question that kind of stands out for me is that this is a pretty unique career, especially, for a young town, small Canadian girl, not your normal conventional career. So when you decided to embark on this, was this something that you received a lot of support on? Was it something you kind of had to push back on? And, in turn, do you also have a message that you might want to send to any, young women trying to embark in this career?
I guess it was kind of like out of left field, especially for my parents. Growing up, they try to put me in soccer a couple of times. Both my parents played soccer, and my brother played soccer growing up. So that was their goal, was try to make me a soccer player. And then I was never really the most athletic person, so I ended up volunteering with animals. So that's where I spent most of my time growing up. I was volunteering at like horse rescues, at dog rescues, at wildlife rescues, everything. And then for some reason, when I was 16 years old, I got it in my head that I wanted to try a cardio kickboxing class.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it was just kind of like a really out of like spur of the moment kind of thing. Yeah, I've never been in a street fight in my life. Like, anytime my parents, they were like, oh yeah, if somebody's bullying you in school, just walk away, don't ever start a confrontation. So it's definitely not something that I've ever been raised with, but I fell in love with it, just learning the sport and the martial art of it. And I just feel like something that I would say to younger girls is that really anybody can do it, because I'm probably the least athletic person in the world, but I work hard and I put my time in it. Every single day I'm in the gym 2 or 3 hours a day, and I don't take days off. So that's really why I'm at where I'm at.
Oh, that's perfect advice. That grind has to keep going. That's really the only way to be successful in anything. So really great advice there. And, did you have the support of your parents right away when they, maybe saw you get hit in the face a few times?
I guess especially when I started, I was younger, and I was, my mom doesn't want to see me get punched in the face, obviously.
Of course.
But, after watching it a few times, they got used to it. They like to support me in what I love to do, but also just like early pro career, you're making absolutely $0 for this. I think I got paid like $400 and $400 for my first couple pro fights. So
wow.
At that point, it was definitely a debate with my parents of, you need to get a real job. And I'm like, just let me focus on this a little bit longer. I promise, I got it.
Oh, that's amazing. Great to hear.
Your drive is really clear. It's funny because, like, talk about support systems, it seems like most of your family is out in Canada. So Rob the dog, that's got to be number one support system. Am I right?
Oh yeah, he's the best. He's the absolute. It was actually while I was working at the Humane Society. He was there for over a year. So in that year, we kind of bonded while I was trying to help him find a home. And then I ended up finding him a home, but it just happened to be mine.
Mine.
That's such an amazing story. Yeah.
I'm sure that's the definition of unconditional love right there.
Yeah.
He's the like everybody has like that stigma around pit bulls, but like he is the absolute sweetest dog in the world. Like he's scared of, like, my friend has a ferret and he's scared of that.
Oh my God. Sounds like my dog.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's so funny because I feel like when she brought up the ATT story, so I was even picturing myself at 16 years old. Like, I'm not a little girl or anything, but at even 33, it's like, yeah, at 16 years old, just walking into ATT, be like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind trying this. It's like, to me, that's like a dream come true. And it's like hearing that you got to live that. I mean, that's amazing. So I just want to say, like, you know, kudos to you. I'm going to be very kind of soft quarter for that story now moving forward.
It was actually an ATT branch school that I started at when I was 16.
Wow.
So it wasn't the main gym, but it was under Dean Thomas. He had two schools, and they were local to where my parents live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So Dean Thomas, he's still my head coach today.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with him since day one. And we started at one of his schools in Port St. Lucie, and then he moved down to Coconut Creek because he wanted to work with more pro fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And I just followed him down there, and now I'm back working with him again.
That's amazing because, like, you've been very public about your relationship with Dean, and it's funny because even for me, being at the age I'm at, it's like when this sport got really popular, like those were the fights that kind of my age group were really seeing, and Dean Thomas has some of the best fights of that era, and you know, you both were on an Ultimate Fighter, and it's funny, his Ultimate Fighter season is phenomenal when you think about it now because 3 of those guys who kind of made it through the tournament are now pretty big coaches with, you know, Dean right there. And I think with him going off into his own gym, being able to focus on you, is that something you're kind of benefiting from as well?
Oh, it's absolutely made the world of difference in my training. Just having a one-on-one coach every single day, having someone who's really helping me see the mistakes in my game, where at ATT, obviously, I had wonderful training partners. I had some of the best girls in the world there to train with. But the coaches are just spread so thin. There's 100 fighters and 10 coaches. So you're not really getting that kind of attention, and you end up trying to just kind of making the same mistakes or trying to solve your own mistakes. And it's just now I finally get the attention from Dean. I feel ready when I'm walking into my fights. I feel 100% confident, and it's really made a difference to my mental state walking into fights just because I know that I'm ready for every single moment that girl has for me.
And it's really funny because it made me really think about, because I think you're this caliber fighter, especially potential-wise. It's like you think about, you know, TriStar Gym with Faraz Zahavi back in the day with GSP. You think of Trevor Whitman right now with Justin Gaethje. Like, these are coaches now that are making a huge name for themselves because of the fighters that they're putting together and the exposure they're getting because of their fighter success. And I feel like you really are, you know, prone to be that type of fighter for Dean. And we're really excited to see what comes of that. I know Zahn Pies is really excited to ask you about your Ultimate Fighter season, so I'm going to let him take over for that.
So, you know, we're pretty big fans of reality television, whether it's in the UFC realm or just that mindless mush realm, Big Brother, The Challenge, whatever it may be. Not embarrassed to say so, but, you know, we would like to know a little bit of an insider's view of what that season might have been like, you know, being in that house, all that kind of stuff.
It was probably one of the worst and best experiences of my life.
Oh, wow.
It was like, I honestly, being in the gym, I was in heaven because I had Justin and his whole team watching over us, coaching us. Trevor Whitman absolutely changed my life. Just like, he's just an amazing person, an amazing coach. And then you're surrounded by 8 girls who want to be the best in the world, who are there, who are motivated and dedicated, and are trying to put the time and the effort in. So just having that kind of mindset around you is just powerful. And I love being in the gym, and I love being able to work with all those girls and being able to work with Justin's team. But then you go back to the house, and there's absolutely nothing to do. It's just like, it's like you can't, well, if we're cutting weight then, so it's not like you can like waste your time eating. You can't read. We're not allowed to have books. We're not allowed, there's no TV, no music, no nothing.
What?
Yeah, so it's like you can't, no phone, so you can't call home. It's just, it was very rough being in the house just with boredom.
You could definitely thank the ruffians of the early seasons that probably caused a lot of those issues, because think back to Diego Sanchez and the asparagus. Diego Sanchez and the asparagus, you know, all those little fights that happen, you know, Chris Liebman stories go on. But the one thing I wanted to ask you was, that was actually a really popular female season of the Ultimate Fighter. And so a lot of things happened. And so the one thing I wanted to ask is, I know you were with Justin and his team, but we love Lauren Murphy, but one of the best and funniest storylines to come out of that season was the Eddie Alvarez and the Barb situation. So did you have any experience with that? Were you around? Was that something that you kind of watched happen?
I think they're just both very strong personalities, so they just didn't mesh together very well. And I think probably the funniest thing that came out of that is Lauren was like, oh, he keeps on comparing me to Barb. He keeps on comparing me to Barb. And then he was like, all right, Barb's going to the blue team.
I died.
And we love Lauren. Like, we've actually had a chat with her too. She's such a nice girl. It was just, Eddie Alvarez was too much on that show. Because even with Sujara Eubanks, I mean, she promised to make weight. And so I'm pretty sure Eddie made her cut her dreads to make weight. And I'm sure you saw that too, right?
I think that was Sarge's on her own that she wanted to do.
Okay.
She's a strong-minded person.
Yeah.
And, like, watching her cut weight 3 times at that house, like, I have so much respect for that girl.
Mm-hmm. And she's been kind of like on the same page as you. 2020 has been a really good year for her. So it's kind of nice to see you guys kind of come out of your shell, 3 years later and really take over 2020 in a year where the UFC just took over sports in general.
Oh, yeah, it's dope to see all the tough girls with their success. I know Montana De La Rosa is another big one coming out of it, the house, and Roxanne Modafferi. There's a couple of the girls who are still out there and doing big things.
Mm-hmm. And kudos to you for being honestly kind of like the young prospect in that group of, some very tough veterans who've kind of paved their way through the Invicta realm and all of those tough fights they kind of had to go through to get to UFC. You've kind of been just proving yourself as you go, great amateur record. You've kind of been like that superstar in the making, not to jinx anything, I'm sorry, but like you kind of been like, and you're taking all the right fights, right? And so I just think that is the perfect ticket to kind of watching someone really grow, and it's really fun to see.
Oh yeah, I feel like I personally, obviously I love being in the UFC, but I feel like I got into it so early in my career that now that I'm doing a lot of my growing up on the big stage. So I'm still just kind of figuring everything out, but I know that I'm going to be a world champion soon enough.
There you go. And yeah, like you said, it's a very unique situation at such a young age, being thrown right into the UFC. You've already had a pretty credible UFC career, at 25 years old. So, one question I kind of had for you was, up to date now, it doesn't have to be in the UFC. It can be in any fight that you've taken. But what has kind of been your toughest opponent and why?
I'd honestly probably have to say this last one, but against Talia Santos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I against Macy Barber and against Myra Buena Silva when I lost those fights in the UFC. I honestly, it was something mentally that I wasn't there 100%, where I needed to change something in my mental game, and I feel like I fixed those components now. But with Santos, I just felt like I was put in a lot of positions where I just couldn't execute. I couldn't get off my game plan, and then I started making stupid decisions because of it. And she just didn't give me a lot of opportunity to really execute what I wanted to. And even my 2 losses before the UFC, but one was my first pro fight against Hannah Goldie, and then the other one was my against Cynthia Cabello, but I took that on 5 days notice. Yeah. So I'm like, that one was tough, but there was an excuse for it being so tough.
No, for sure. That's a great answer. And, coming out of that Santos fight, it's so fresh for you. What did you kind of take away from that? What you could kind of do to improve?
I honestly haven't watched the fight yet. I'm probably going to sit down with my coach sometime this week and do it. It was just a little bit too soon at first for me.
Of course.
During the fight, you remember what happened, but you don't really remember 100% of what happened. There's so much going on, and just kind of it's like, I don't know, your body just takes over. There's so much adrenaline, and it just goes. And you don't really remember 100% what happened. So I just need to rewatch the fight and really see what happened to really break it down and decipher what I need to work on.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing you bounce back for sure.
Thank you so much.
And the best part about that is the coaching staff, right? You kind of touched on it so much, that dedicated coaching staff to be able to kind of get you locked in on those holes. And Dean Thomas is actually a really good striker too in his own right. So these are things where I think you're in such a good place where watching your career grow is going to be really fun. And being a Canadian, prospect in the female weight classes, we're really excited. And so, kudos to you, because I think you're really going to break some barriers with that.
Oh, thank you so much. And I feel like I've trusted Dean Thomas since day one, and he's taken me this far. So he's going to take me to the top one day.
So if you had to pick 3 songs that you could kind of come out to or that pump you up before a fight, just 3 perfect tracks, what would they be?
Honestly, my usual walkout song is PIMP by 50 Cent.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny because Azan is a fairly new fight fan, and your first fight that we were actually pretty excited for, we actually can't watch fights together because I'm kind of outside Toronto and he's in Calgary, but I messaged him a video of you walking out, and I'm like, hey, our girl Gillian right now from Canada is coming out to 50s, PIMP right now, so that's probably going to make you really happy. He went crazy. It's one of his favorite artists.
That's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. Get Rich or Die Trying. Oh, baby.
There's nothing that makes you feel more gangster walking out to a fight than that song.
That is the elite for sure. So do you have any other ones that kind of come to mind?
And not really. I've walked out to that song probably my whole pro career. I picked some random ones as amateur. It's never really a big deal for me before because I like to try to just stay focused. I'm trying to just almost bring myself, focus on the moment and focus on my breathing and just bring myself into focusing on my body. So I'm trying, the music doesn't make a huge difference to me at that moment.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah, you got to have that laser focus walking in. So you're probably tuning out everything that's around you anyways.
And it's so funny hearing you say that you're not really athletic, but it's so funny because you seem to have the perfect athletic mentality, though. So even if you think that you might not be making, which I don't even think is true, but you might be having missteps physically, you seem to be the perfectly mentally focused fighter for a 25-year-old girl. I mean, it's pretty incredible to see.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% mentally focused, and I feel like that's why Dean and I started working together. That's why he started putting his time into me when I was an amateur. It's because he saw my work ethic. He saw that I was a hard worker, and then anything he would tell me to do, I'd be doing it. He would tell me to meet him at this time. We're going to be training for this long, and I'd be there. So I think that's what started our relationship. Really, was this work ethic, and it's I don't even feel like I'm necessarily talented in this sport. I really just attribute it 100% to just me being there every single day and showing up.
Yeah, I mean,
and your humility continues.
I know, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's something we noticed about you right away when previewing your first fight this year. But we love to see how humble you are. That humility, really represents that Canadian nature. So.
And it's really funny because I was just going to follow up. Did you get any fights? You were looking to submission, grappling fights, is that right? So I was wondering, did you get any of those? Because those really are some of your best skills, and I would love to kind of watch that go down if you have anything scheduled.
Not 100% yet, but I'm talking to 3 different promotions for different dates with different names. So hopefully I'll be able to know soon.
Yeah, I think that's an arena of mixed martial arts that you could absolutely damage. Grappling is your best suit, and you've looked phenomenal against some of the top girls in the UFC. So that's going to be really exciting if you get your feet wet there too.
And I feel like I said, I'm so young in this sport. I'm so I need that experience. I need to be put into competition circumstance as much as possible and put myself out there and just really put yourself in uncomfortable situations to be able to grow.
I think it's kind of cool that a bunch of fighters are able to do that now, because I personally, before you didn't really see so much of that, ability to kind of go out in between UFC fight and take on a submission game. But, over the course of the last, 3-4 months, you're seeing a lot of fighters do that. Ryan Bader had a couple scheduled. So, I mean, all the power to you, man. Get the paper, get that experience. We want to see you grow too,
Oh yeah, and honestly, it's more fun for me too. I love to
it's
not to get punched in the face.
Yeah, I bet you could probably submit both of us in 10 seconds, like a handicap match. So I bet that's probably
for damn sure. But it is really admirable to see your drive combined with your humility, and that's the perfect recipe to be successful. So all the power to you. We're definitely rooting for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate all the support.
Oh, yeah, so, no problem.
One thing we're going to actually do right now is just give me a rapid fire question. I'm just going to throw a bunch of questions at you. Don't take any time. The first that comes to your mind, throw it out there, okay?
All right.
All right. So favorite color?
Purple.
Favorite place to travel?
Canada.
Rob's favorite food. Okay, you know what? I was gonna say maybe Pies wants to step in there quickly.
Yeah. Wow. The food you miss most from Canada?
I'm not sure specifically. That's a hard one.
Not really a poutine fan, eh?
I was just about to say, I think poutine is the only answer.
Sorry, I had to sign a little Canadian flair there. Resume, Raj.
Yeah. So, I mean, favorite MMA fighter growing up?
I didn't watch MMA growing up.
Favorite sport growing up?
Still not. I wasn't athletic necessarily, so I didn't really play sports.
Favorite hobby growing up?
I guess like working with animals. That was all I did.
Amazing. So, I mean, potential career when you retire?
I'm not necessarily sure about that either. I couldn't have told you I'd have been an MMA fighter 10 years ago. So.
Yeah. And you're killing that game. So, I guess that those are pretty good ones. I guess favorite strain of weed. We noticed your most recent post, so maybe you dabble in that too.
Mandarin cookies.
There you go, Mandarin cookies.
That's amazing. So, if you are looking ahead a little to 2021, is there anyone that you have your eye on? Anyone you want to call out right now?
My fight with Talia Santos was actually short notice because I was supposed to fight Andrea Lee the week before. So it'd be awesome if we could get that match set up because I was really looking forward to that matchup. I feel like she's a huge vet in the sport, and she's a big test for me, and I would love to have that.
That's amazing. We want to see that rematch as well. We think
definitely. And yeah, I think it's one of those names where I think you deserve to get that on your end as well, because I think Santos kind of benefited from getting, the girl that's blowing everybody out of the water to now kind of, you getting your dues on that side. So I would love to see that fight get rebooked. I would love to see take on that veteran and, see what we can do. I think you have a really good chance of really doing well in that division, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, thank you so much.
Perfect. Anything else you kind of want to touch on, Siraj? Anything?
Well, if there's anything you want to pitch, is there anything you want to touch on? Anything you want to pitch at all?
Just always shout out to my head coach Dean Thomas, my main training partner Jose Shorty Torres, and if you want to follow me on social media, Savage_UFC.
Beautiful. We'll definitely plug all that for you as well. Thank you so much for taking the time.
We really appreciate it, Gillian. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you guys.
Hopefully we can touch base with you soon, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Take care, Gillian. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.